Hey y'all, it's me Amanda, the Lazy Stitcher, but we're not talking stitching today. We're going to talk about books that I read in October. So let's get started. Okay, the first book I managed to finish in October was Christy by Catherine Marshall. Now this one is a historical fiction, but I think it actually is loosely based off of the author's actual mother. Christy is a girl who lives in the city. It's like 1911, I think, that this takes place in. And she moves to a very rural place. She moves to Cutter Gap, which is in the Smoky Mountains, very rural. And she's going to be a school teacher. She's only like 19 years old, and she's going to do her thing and help these poor impoverished children, which they are very poor impoverished children there. This is a long book. It was a hefty one and it took me quite a while to finish. I did have to take a break at one point. Overall, I liked it. This is a very Christian themed novel. I am not personally a Christian. That's fine. I just figured it's good to know if you're going to get into it. I like historical fiction novels like this, but I feel like this one had less of what I personally like, which is I liked her teaching the kids and getting to know the kids and helping them, and I liked the kids, basically. I didn't as much like some of the other parts of the novel. We also have like a love triangle in here, and what I don't like in a love triangle is when a lot of effort is made into getting to know one character and then it swerves to another. I don't personally like that, and I understand. I think the idea in the book is we're supposed to be presented with why her original suitor is not as good of a match for her as the guy she does end up with, but I don't know. I feel like it wastes energy, and to be honest, I didn't like either guy very much. Anyway, I know things aren't always about romance, but as a romance reader, just noting. That said, I honestly was entertained by this. It's good. It's kind of long and slow. It wasn't my favorite. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's solid if you think you'd be into this sort of thing. Next, I read Cold Clay by Juneau Black. So this is the second in the Shady Hollow Cozy Mystery series, which centers around Vera Vixen, who is a reporter, but she's also quite the little detective as well. And this one is about how the owner of the coffee shop, whose name I already forget, Joe, who is a moose. Basically, moose bones are found. It is very much theorized that it is Joe's wife, who everyone just thought that she left him a long time ago, including him. And we have to figure out what's going on, what actually happened to her. Was Joe involved in any way? There you go. So, it's a cozy mystery. There's a lot of coffee. I don't find these quite as cozy as I would like, but they're still nice. The mystery itself is really underwhelming. It's very obvious right away, like, who the villain is in this one. That said, I still gave it 3.25 stars. It's entertaining enough. I think these are cute. They're not, like, the best mysteries ever. I think I'm going to continue on in the series, but I'll be honest, like, I mostly got this because I think I love the covers of these books, but we'll see. Probably will continue on. Next we have my book of the month choice, The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. Now this one is a really cool, I guess you'd say low fantasy or magical realism. I lean more towards fantasy novel. And it has a really great, intriguing concept. So June, her grandmother dies, and then a few days after her grandmother's death, she receives a letter in the mail from her grandmother, and it includes a picture that June instantly recognizes as her mother, who ran off ages ago and she never knew what happened to her mom. She was basically left in a basket for her grandmother. It's a picture of her mom, but it's a picture of her mom from like the early 1900s, married to some dude that who was famously murdered in the town, right? And June's just like, no, because this is taking place during current day. There's no way her mom could have been from the early 1900s. That doesn't work that way. So we've got an intriguing mystery and things to unfollow. There's also a family history of madness, and the women in this family all have, like, they all go slowly insane over time. And June knows that she's not doing well because she's starting to have visions herself. So that's basically what this one is about. We've got an intriguing concept, and it goes further into that. I won't spoil all of it. I liked this book a lot. I think the descriptions are really well done. I could really picture the setting and the times that are mentioned in this book. Really, overall enjoyed it. I felt like June herself is a little bit flat of a character. She has a lot of emotions that make sense for the situation she's in, but at the same time, I feel like I didn't really know her as well as I should have, all things considered that she's the main character. But as a whole, I really enjoyed this. I think it's definitely worth a read. I give it 4 stars. The next book I have to talk about is an audiobook I finished, which is The Picts and the Martyrs by Arthur Ransome. So this is, again, from the children's series that my husband loves oh so much, Swallows and Amazons. In this one, Nancy and Peggy are having Dick and Dorothea visit while their mother's away. But the great aunt discovers that they're going to be alone and does not think that is appropriate, and she decides she is going to visit the girls and, like, I don't know, I guess you say take care of them. Even though Nancy at this point's got to be like 15 or something, like, she can handle it. Come on. They'll be fine. And it is decided instantly that it would not be good to have their friends over, so Dick and Dorothea then go live in a shack in the woods, hidden secretly, so as not to upset the great aunt. And that's the basic concept of this one. You've got Dick and Dorothea hiding, trying to live a more simple life in a shack in the woods, while Nancy and Peggy are pretending to be little angels, that they do nothing wrong and make the great aunt very, very happy. So this one, the ending is fantastic. So the concept falls apart a tiny bit to me because, like, really, they had to live in a shack in the woods. Like, your uncle has a houseboat. Now, I guess it's sort of explained because another character, Timothy, is staying in the houseboat, but I feel like they didn't even ask about the houseboat, and I feel like you need to at least mention things and come up with, even if it's a shoddy reason, you should mention things and come up with even a shoddy reason for why it wouldn't work out. But so be it. They couldn't stay in the houseboat. And if you can accept the whole concept of it, it's honestly very entertaining. And like I said, the ending is fantastic for this one. Like, it's funny, entertaining. I really enjoyed it. So that one got a 4 stars. Next, we've got Where Things Come Back by John Corey Whaley. Now, this is one of my older books. So is Christy, for that matter. I have lots of books that I've owned for quite a while. It's been 10 plus years, and I just sort of stopped there. So this is one of the books that was really popular 10 plus years ago when I was reading very voraciously. Now, this book is about a young gentleman named Cullen, and he is basically a teenager going through his teenage life, and it's the summer, and all of a sudden his younger brother goes missing. And it's about how it affects him and his family, and it's like a coming-of-age story, basically. Now, this book, I just didn't feel the vibes on this. It's a shame I did not read it when I first got it quite a while ago. I was still kind of old for YA, because this is a YA story, should mention that. When I got this, I was really into YA, and I think I would have enjoyed it quite a bit more at that time than I did now, because I found Cullen to just be kind of annoying. He's very, like, down on everything and, like, very cynical, which I didn't appreciate. I liked his younger brother, who disappears. As a whole, it just didn't jive. It wasn't my thing. If you like cynical teenagers going through a tough time, this is for you. I did really like the ending. I have to say the ending made up for a lot in this book. That said, overall I still rated it about 3 stars. Wasn't terrible or anything, just it was underwhelming for me personally. Next I read It Happened One Autumn by Lisa Kleypas. Now this one I actually read on my Kindle, but I did manage to get physical copies of these books for quite inexpensively, so why not? This one is about Lillian, who, of the 4 wallflowers, she's one of the loud, brash Americans, and she's having a hard time getting herself a man. They managed to find one for their first friend, Annabelle, right? Our main hero ends up being Lord Westcliff, who is, you know, who's Simon, right? Simon's friend from the first book. And this is very much they have a lot of disdain for each other, but of course the attraction is there. That's the whole basis for the romance, is that he doesn't understand why he's so into her. There's perfume involved. Now, I like Lisa Kleypas' writing, I like her characters, but I am getting kind of over the whole we have animosity towards each other dynamic, because Annabelle and Simon had that too. And then this one's just even stronger animosity towards each other. And I'm just kind of like, can we do something other than enemies to lovers constantly? Like, anyway, I have a feeling the next one's also going to be like that, but I know people absolutely adore The Devil in Winter, so we'll see. But anyway, and also, I felt it was a little bit, we've got some dubious consent going on in a few parts of this. It's fine. If you're a regular romance reader and you're used to romance, and especially historical romance, and you're you know what to expect, you'll be fine. I just like to give a heads up for people. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.75 stars. Thank you, Storygraph. Okay, next I read a book with my son called A Whale of the Wild. It was we got it from his school library. Now, this book is a middle grade book, and it's basically about a family of whales. It centers around one named Vega. They all have star names, which is really cute. And basically, it's about their lives, and like, she and her brother at some point get lost from the rest of their family, and they need to figure out how to find salmon, because these are specifically salmon-eating whales, and they have to survive. Now, I want to note that this is a bit of a sad book. Sad things happen in this book. There is loss and whale grief. So I just want to note that my son was kind of young for this book. We probably shouldn't have read it. He picked it out and the librarian was like, okay. It's not her fault, okay? But yeah, there is loss and grief in this book, and that's just something good to know if you have a child who's not used to kids' books that aren't completely happy, okay? It's just good to know. That said, I thought it was an overall pretty good book. It's a solid kids' book, so if your kid is into whales, animals, and wants to know more about them. It was also fun. They had some information about orcas at the end. I gave this one 3.5 stars. And then next, I have Starling House, which I also got from Book of the Month, because when I saw the 2 picks, I couldn't decide between them, so I went ahead and got both. And this one was described as gothic fiction. This one's by Alix Harrow. Now, I just recently got into a Lumicrate, so my first book is actually going to be Starling House. I didn't realize that that was going to happen. But it's fine because I loved this book. It was great. We've got our main character, Opal. And Opal is very much not a good girl. She steals, lies, etc. But she's not like a terrible, horrible person. She does a lot of what she does because she's trying to help her brother, her younger brother, get into a good school. And a good school's expensive, okay? They have different fathers. They don't know who their fathers are, and their mother died when Opal was like 15 and her brother was only 5. So she's been taking care of him as much as possible, and she's trying to give him a good life. They live in a motel. Yeah, they live in a motel, and things are rough for them. And then one day she starts to feel this house that's in town calling to her. She has these dreams about Starling House. And it is like a spooky, super haunted seeming house. And the people who live there, the Starlings, they tend to be pretty kooky. And they all seem to die fairly young. It's a whole bunch of like, what's going on with this house and this. And it's like creepy, but like the right amount of creepy for me. I am pretty wimpy, okay? I don't like scary stuff. This is perfect. It's not too scary, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this book. I was so surprised how much I enjoyed it. It was closing in on 5 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. Highly recommend it. I just really enjoyed it. There's some romance that I didn't expect in it, which is like always a huge plus for me. I really loved this book, and I'm excited I'm going to have like a super fancy pretty version of it, so I'll have to figure out what to do with this one. Okay, the next book I read was on my Kindle, Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I have had this one forever, and I finally decided to read it. I think my father-in-law actually bought it when we had given him a Kindle. This one is an interesting fantasy novel where a young boy, who we actually don't learn his name, I believe he's like 7 years old, he ends up entrapped in this weird, like, it's so hard to describe this book, but basically his neighbors seem like they might be witches, and he ends up pulled into this awful situation because of magic, and the witches are trying to help him. I don't know. I'm not describing it very well. But it's a really interesting story. And I gave it 3.5 stars. This isn't because I didn't enjoy it. I just sort of was neutral about it the whole time. I was reading it and none of it ever got me like, it was just sort of, it's kind of weird, a bit creepy. It was pretty appropriate for October, actually. I'm glad I picked it. But I just never felt like super into it. I liked the characters, but I wasn't super attached to them. And some of it was like really, maybe a little, it's very creepy, not too like, I think it's the right amount of scary. Like, it wasn't too much for me personally, but there is something in it with child abuse that made me really upset on this like deep level, if that makes sense. It was just really upset me. But as a whole, I think it's good. I think it's solid. If you like Neil Gaiman and you want something kind of creepy, spooky, a little unsettling, I think this is a good choice. Overall, it's a good book. I didn't like love it. And lastly, I read Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. This is a very short little book. It'll take you no time at all if you want to read it. Thornhedge. This one is about a little character named Toadling, and Toadling is a girl who, she's actually meant to be a princess, but she was switched at birth with a changeling, like a fae child, and she ended up with, I forget what the name of the creatures are, but she ended up with these like toad-like creatures and living in the fae world. And she eventually learns to turn into a toad, and she has like a little bit of magic that she can do. And then we kind of know that she's in charge of watching a tower. But we don't know exactly like what's up with this tower. Why is she watching it? We have a feeling that someone dangerous is inside, but we don't know everything behind it. So that's the basic concept. And eventually, it's been like 200 years, and a young knight comes, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go save the person in the tower, because that's what you do if you're a knight. I don't have anything better to do. And it's about the relationship between him and Toadling, and slowly unraveling the whole mystery of what's going on here. It's short, it's sweet, I enjoyed it. It also is a little spooky too, actually, but not overwhelming. I enjoyed this. I give it 4 stars. It's not like my favorite T. Kingfisher, but I think it's perfectly enjoyable. It's a fun little fantasy book, like fairy tale, basically. Okay. That's all the books. I think that was like 10 books that I read in October. So, you know, good for me. That was a good haul. If you made it all this way. How about drop me a turkey emoji? Because it is November now. And, you know, just let me know you watched it. You don't have to say anything else. We don't need to make it complicated. But I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate it. Bye!